Guys, how is that? The sound of silence. Hopefully we fixed that now. So you've probably been missing me yabbering on for the last kind of minute or so while I was saying the good mornings to everyone. So we'll start that one again, shall we? How are we all doing? Monday, 6th of January. Big shout out to everybody watching this live today, as well as everybody that's on recording. Can you just give me a little heads up if we've got the sound issue fixed? If we have, then we will crack on and I will catch up on all the bits and pieces that I was just jabbering on about. There we are, Nit, my friend. How are we doing? How are we doing? Craigie boy, Ludwig as well, Variety Life, everybody that's on there. Apologies for Yago, saw you coming this morning as well, my friend. Great to see you all here, as well as, oh my days. Unfortunately, I can't pronounce your name, my friend. It sounds wonderful though. Message. Potentially, there we go. That was a real test for me. That was, my friend. Shola, how are we doing? Sylvian, Will, everybody starting to come in. IBNI crypto sound is fixed. Everything's looking good now. Friend Jojo, wonderful. So, what I was saying about before we had a slight sound issue. Hopefully, this thing holds up now. But if there are any more issues, please do let me know. Bitcoin. What's the situation? Well, things started to look a little bit stronger, haven't they? We've seen that kind of coming back into the market now, a little bit of strength. So I want to share with you, starting with the thoughts that I shared with members at the Bird Nest yesterday in our daily Bitcoin report, but also to take a look at some other assets today. So we're going to take a look at some chart requests and bits and pieces, see what it is that you guys are interested in and what it is that we want to take a look at. But I also want to take a look at some of the AI coins today as well, right? AI, super hot narrative, seems to be coming back very strong. Had our eyes on FET, RAI, which was a brilliant call from Just Pip, awesome trading. Got us, involved in that around about sort of $4 or $5. That thing ran all the way up to about 14, 15 bucks yesterday, I think, which was quite big. Which has had a little bit of a correction now, which is ultimately super healthy. So we're going to take a little look at that as well, because that's something I think that could have a really, really big run as well. So if you have got anything you want me to take a look at, guys, please do let me know. I'm just going to scan the chat very quickly. And yes, Yago, always a nice cup of tea. And obviously a very big happy new year to everybody as well. So we're going to obviously take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at ETH. We're going to take a look at Iota on here as well for Cryptomaniac 01. If you've got any others, guys, just pop them in the chat and then I will work through them. Let's have a look. Perfect. All right, so Jojo, watching 101 to 102K resistance possibly. All right, well, let's take a look at what we've got here. Let me just pop out to the weekly first. Now, the reason for these big, thick red lines is we've been watching these key areas for a while. And what does the story tell us as we kind of zoom into here? Well, this was the key high for me, right? This is the swing high. That's ultimately what was capping the market. Why? Because as we saw this level come across, price closed above, look at the beautiful retest, hold this level that we expect price to push higher. When price closed back within the range, the week starting the 23rd of December, this week here, we're saying, well, we're looking for retests of this, right? Retests of this level for price to sell off lower. And where are we targeting? Well, ultimately, before we had this candle close, this was the swing low. It's just a smidge lower than this. So that was the target. However, price created internal liquidity here, yeah, or an internal low, which was then swept here. Now, when price closed within here, then the target becomes pretty clear, all right? We're then looking for the prior week's high to be taken, and then ultimately the all-time high, all right? So if we're looking on the Teddy, hello, mate. Always remember the banter you and Burb used to have when I first joined the nest about all the running. But yeah, you should have seen us in Singapore when I covered a speech for him, and they didn't change the picture, so they expected a handsome, bald-looking Viking chap, and they got me on stage instead. And Pavel said, oh my God, like, Burb's been to this retreat, he shaved his beard, he's dyed his hair, he's a whole new man. And for quite a while after that, we were still getting messages asking if that was true. But it's good to see you on here, mate. Welcome. Beluga as well. So that was pretty funny, yeah. I mean, they tell me something's crypto without telling me it's crypto, right? How do you get it to cast your screen instead of your camera? I'm sorry, Beluga, I have absolutely no idea, mate. We have a wonderful tech department that's doing this, and hopefully you can see my screen and not my camera, because I'm sure I'm looking pretty rough this morning. It's no sleep season is here for everyone. NBA Young Believe, good morning, mate. So just moving back to this quickly, where does that leave us? So I'm just going to drop this down to the daily now. We're going to get a little bit more context on this, okay? So this is still a key level for me. I want to see price start to close above here, get these kind of retests that we saw here. But ultimately, this provides really good confluence at this level because we've got this swing high here as well, which is our kind of interim target here. This is the kind of level that price is going to kind of be battling with, in my opinion. We want to see some full body daily closes above this, then retests at this level, in my opinion, are really after buying. Now we're going to look at the 4 hour down here in a moment, but the plan was if we reject here, then price is almost certainly going to be coming down towards this high, right? And I'll explain why in a moment, as well as the gap below. Now, bullish market conditions, weekly's bullish, but the daily here, look, we came from higher low, higher high, lower low, lower higher. Okay, so we ultimately broke market structure down here. Now, some people require a close for market structure to be broken, etc. What I'm looking at, I'm looking for those shifts in the dynamic, but then I'm looking at how price reacts here. Because as price had this resurgence higher, and when we look at this here as well, we're going to look at this on the 4 hour, and you're going to see clearly how we got those early stage indications here that price was going to have this corrective move higher that could also very easily become the resurgence for the recovery of the bullish trend. Okay, Funky T, my man, how you doing, my friend? So when we go to the 4 hour, this is what we're going to look for. The key thing for me is making sure that I'm taking trades at the right levels, okay, because that will increase my chances of success. Otherwise, if I'm just taking trades in the middle of nowhere, very, very difficult to understand and very, very difficult to work out your risk, okay? So we had this strong reaction here. This is the high I'm interested in. Why? Well, first of all, it's a little bit of an abnormal wick. Yeah, very, very long wick like this. So when we have something like this, we want to then see how price engages with it, because there was obviously a lot of selling pressure there to drive price down, because price reacted here, had this big bullish reaction, but then, you know, price ultimately came all the way back down to here. Yeah, so they were showing there was still a lot of sell pressure present. However, the buyers ultimately stepped in here and drove price higher. So this became the swing high that we broke, yeah, closed above this. When we get that on the higher time frames, we then look for this level to be retested, right? Because ultimately, anybody that was here, that was short here, yeah, and then got caught offside when price came away from them, have the chance to mitigate and close that position out when price returns to here. So what it means is you then get people that are closing off their positions, yeah, that were short here. So you're getting those buy orders come in, and then those people could also get the opportunity to flip, all right, and then join what looks like the new establishing trend. So on here, the daily gap was the key if we were going to set this as the lower high, right? So just remember that, because you know, when price was coming into here, we were still coming off the back of, yeah, low, lower low, lower high, lower low. That could have, before we got these, you know, the candles coming into here, this could have been the formation of a lower high, yeah? Because before this candle here came into play, yeah, that was still the swing high. So you don't know if price is going to move away from there. So that's where you have to, you know, in my opinion anyway, that's why I've always got different plans when I come to the charts. You know, I don't ever want to kind of just try and enforce my will on the market and say, oh, okay, well, this should be bullish. Now look at all these bullish candles. You know, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know they're dojis, but ultimately they've closed bullish. So, you know, from Monday sweeping the low, you've then had a whole week of bullish plays intraday, right? And ultimately price grinding up towards this high. So that's what we want to see. That's the kind of key target we're looking for price to reach for today. And now we're going to kind of take a look down on the 4 hour and look how we can do this in terms of it being a little bit more granular. BC, some crazy wicks on BitGet, on BTC Spot. I mean, I don't find it too bad, but you do get some occasional rogue ones like this and that right down here. But I think ultimately it's always been, yeah, sometimes more on the 4 hour. I mean, this one here, I'm not sure if we got this one on Binance, but ultimately this low was still on Binance, so that wasn't really too much different. Apart from that, I haven't really found it too much of a problem, Craig, actually. Like I do use it a lot more for the perps as well, but I do have some nice spot holdings on BitGet as well. But yeah, you're right, absolutely. You've always got to check the exchanges and that, make sure you're not getting some of them. I remember some of the Coinbase wicks back in the day were absolutely ridiculous. So 4 hour, I was saying to you back there when I was jabbering on, right, when we engaged with this low, this is where we were looking for the resurgence. So what about this here, you know, told us that price action was ready to move in the other direction? Well, a couple of things. First of all, deviation of this level here, then price steps back into this range. You know, when you're looking for price breaking out or breaking down, you really want to see what the bodies of the candles are doing. So when we got this initial move down here, yeah, price came down, closed outside of this low and took out this low as well, remember. So we've got relative equal lows down there. Price closed below that here. Now, when price closes below a key level, what you don't want to see ideally is quite a long downside wick. Obviously, if you're looking to, you know, close below this level and continue with the shorts. Why? Because it just shows a little bit of absorption from the buyers. So if I've got an unclear read, now, if this had come down and this had just been a full body close to the downside like this, even with a short nose on it, like a small wick, then I would have been looking for retests of this and for price to sell off. Even still, if you were looking for that here, this candle here then told you that price was too bullish to really push down here. So we get this big engulfing candle, which means that we then look to this level, you know, that we were looking at as potential resistance, you know, support through here. Has it turned resistance? No, it's stepped back inside. So now we say, okay, price looks like it wants to move higher. It looks like it wants to correct. But then we really want to get a little bit more confluence from that. So we want to look for, I want to look for the shifts in market structure. All right. And that for me is right here. Okay, so this is where we will have our MSS, right? So for me, that's a market structure shift. It's not a market structure break, all right? Because for a market structure break, you're looking for, you know, in this example here, for a low to be set, higher high, higher low, right? And then you're breaking this level. So you've stepped into bullish market structure then. At this point, this is just a shift, right? But it shows that there's a change in the dynamic. when I look for a market structure shift, I want to see impulse, I want to see movement, I want to see the buyers really stepping in here. And what gives us that indication are the gaps. All right, the failure with the order pairing showing that there's a lot of buyer pressure stepping in here. These gaps are then often rebalanced. You know, we get a really, really good setup within here as well, because we get a gap low. So basically overlaid liquidity pools here. And then once again, like we're doing on the higher time frame, is looking at how price is engaging with that level, because the candles don't lie. They tell you what price has done, right? So when price came into here, it tried to sweep below this low, completely rebalance the gap. And then you're saying to yourself, all right, well, if price wants lower here, let's see price close beneath this, ultimately disrespecting it, and then we're chasing out these lows. At that point, I'm quite neutral there, but I'm just waiting to see what happens. But then when we sweep that and we get that pin bar candle, that's a very, very bullish candle. When we then get a pin bar followed by a bullish engulfing, I think it then follows with another pin bar. So it was basically, that's why we were long in here, right? And then we had a very, very clear target of this high. Then remember what we were looking at on the daily. We wait for that daily close above it, yeah? And then you're saying, okay, as you step into Friday, which is here, we're looking for the retest, and look how well we respect this level. You know, you would drop, or I would drop down to lower time frames to find entry patterns in here, just trading it level to level. Then you're looking for this high to hold, which it does. Price ultimately pushes up. And then we can see what the plan was in here, right? Obviously, we've got the same thing. You've got the market moving away. You've got the displacement. You've got the momentum leaving the gap. So then what you're looking for is a low to be swept in this case, or the gap to be engaged with. And when you get both, even more so, happy days, all right? So now while we're up here, it's quite simple for me, really. We're doing the same thing. It's a little bit rinse and repeat. And this really could be the start of this very bullish resurgence in the market. Now, we're going to take a look at the other factors that contribute into that. However, at the moment, my plan is clear, right? We've had long positions open since down here. We've compounded some into here. This is not a place to go long when you're talking about going into key resistance here. I mean, just look at this level here on the 4 hour. Yeah, support, strong close. What do we get? Gap. Yeah, showing the momentum. I mean, look at that closing below the level. That tells you that retests of this level are probably going to be for selling. If this ultimately becomes a deviation and price steps back above this level, strong close, then we look to buy. Until that, we're just sellers here, sellers here, sellers here. So we need to consider that same thing here. Now, I do feel, and I wrote this in the report last night, that price would reach up for this high. Key daily swing higher. You can see the significance of it. In fact, if we were to zoom out a little bit here, and if you're looking at these clusters of highs here, you're looking at this low here, and even this move in here, there's an argument that you look to this consolidation over here and say, well, all right, what confluence do we have here in terms of price moving above and below this level? For me, it would be something like this. Yeah. This was strong support here that led to a very, very decent upside move. This supported price down here. Price closed below this level, saw two very, very big rejections here that led to big moves to the downside. So if I wanted to be super secure here, then I'd want to see a candle coming and closing above this. Yeah, taking out the liquidity above these highs and showing us the close tells us that, you know, the liquidity grabs that are being made above this high, if they can't, you know, force the market lower, then the buyers really have stepped in here. At that point, I'm then just looking for this area to hold, lower time frame, price to build a base, and then we move up. So at the moment, we are at a little bit of we are at a little bit of a point of caution. But I'm still feeling really, really super bullish at the moment, I have to say. Now, just going to open this up at the moment, and you don't always have to look at these, and they're not also always correlated, but it is something that I consider every single week and every single day, which is looking at some traditional markets as well and how they affect it. The first one being the dollar index, the DXY. DXY rejected our key level up here at 109.294, targeted that for a while. Ultimately, this is a gigantic range that we have DXY in. And look, when price held this level, we said this is probably going to be a really strong run for DXY. However, so the DXY is the dollar index. It's the dollar measured against a basket of other currencies that's heavily weighted towards the euro, or heavier weighted towards the euro. So when we're looking at this stuff, right, you need to always factor in other elements, because news, for example, when you have good manufacturing reports like we saw with the ISM manufacturing figures last week, that is going to provide a strong dollar because it's showing, you know, that there's strength in the US markets. Manufacturing's up the same way if you get good jobs data, the same way if you get interest rates coming down as well. Look, it can cross purpose with this sometimes, right? Because we look to the dollar index as a sign of strength and weakness in risk markets, or I certainly do. So if I have good correlation like today, where I see the DXY falling and I've got a clear level for it to reach, so that's the dollar index, I'm then taking a quick look at the US bond market. All right, now these typically being looked at on a higher level, and we can see this is pretty flat at the moment, price kind of ranging around in here. That's the US 10-year. US 2s are down, and you can see we've even got bearish structure here on the H4. But what I'm most concerning myself with are equity markets, or especially the indexes. All right. So what is that? Well, that is this here. So we're looking here at the NASDAQ mini contract. All right. You can also look at the NQ1 contract, which gives you the full data. This is the forward facing contract now, which is the NQH contract. We finished December's contract, obviously, in December. Now, what am I looking for here? Well, I'm looking for prosperous tech markets, basically, and I'm using the indexes to kind of give me that information. So quite simply, we're looking for these key levels to be engaged with. Now, this was an interesting one because as I was telling you about our levels, when you see this candle close here, this is when you're expecting some kind of resurgence because you see it wick below and come above. The opposite of what happened when we closed below this level, that was a strong close. If we hadn't also taken out this low here, so let's imagine that this low was somewhere down here, then on this candle, I would have been favoring more downside. Ultimately, when you step back above these levels, what price is often telling you is that it's seeking liquidity higher up. So that's too cheap for that contract there. It's saying value is higher and therefore it's seeking out value higher. We then look how it reacts at the other key levels, exactly the same as we do with crypto. All right, and let me just get rid of that for a moment, just so it's a little bit less clear. And look, same thing. Close above, short wick, fine. How does price react here? Hold here. Here's our pin bar. Here's our engulfing. Price is away. We also get our close here just a little bit above this resistance level. All right, again, key resistance. Yeah, support here, strong move above. Support here, abnormal wick. Close below, retest, sell off, retest, sell off. Don't quite get to it there. So maybe that area is slightly deeper. However, you know, we were in bearish structure anyway here, expecting these sell-offs. Then price comes into this level, doesn't respect it at all, meaning that price is now looking to move higher. Anyway, so I'm looking at the NASDAQ. I'm looking at the S&P 500. This is the ES1 contract as well. And we can see that we've got that resurgence. So what have we got? We've got the dollar index down. We've got the bond markets flat and down. And we've got equity markets focused on the NASDAQ because they're the largest technology stocks involved in that. Is booming. So it tells me that as the week begins, the market has appetite for risk. Now, we need to remember with the mass adoption that we're seeing with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency as well, that this is going to start playing more and more of a part in the markets, right? As you know, major hedge funds, investment groups, etc., central banks start getting exposure to Bitcoin on their balance sheet and offering it out to their clients, right? And the ETF scene changed all of that. So what does that mean? Well, it means what we're going to do now is we're going to go and take a look at ETH, all right, our old friend Ethereum. Now, let's zoom out here to our daily chart and just get the positions off of here. Hang on. Tidy that up a little bit for us. So if we go out to the daily here, the daily has just been so clean on this for me, right? So we've got these key swing highs. Yeah. For me, these are like internal highs. So the swing points I'm looking for are the really key ones where you see these really big moves. Ultimately, the peaks, the highs, and the key highs and the key lows, right? They're the ones I'm really focused on because these are what I want to see how price reacts at. Now, as we get to this one, which we can see, strong close above, retested this level, look how we've held it. Where we got underneath it, price sold off. Well, we're now back above it. Right, for me, that's really key here, and a little bit like Bitcoin, but more advanced. You know, Bitcoin's kind of here battling with this level at the moment. ETH has kind of taken the run on this one, and it's already out ahead. Now we're going to look at the ones below. Calvo, Apex, my friend, how was your drive? Our friend here, Calvo, had a long and what I can imagine very interesting drive, considering the weather conditions we've got over here at the moment, up to our wonderful part of the UK, Scotland. which is probably, well, definitely one of my favourite parts of the UK. Scotland, you know, Wales, especially northern Wales, it's just absolutely magical places. But you really feel the weather when it's turning like this. So as we look here, we've established above this level what I'd love to see. And obviously what I'd love to see and what I actually get to see are normally two different things, is this. I'm just going to do these gaps in green for you guys, just so you can see compared to these support resistance levels, you know, that these are bullish gaps here. So let's tell the story of price here, shall we? So price has come in, set a new low, lower high. It then holds this as a higher low, right? And now breaks above this. So we've actually broken market structure here. So now I'm looking for price to come back to this key level here, right? This now, for me, I'll pop this in green as well, is very much support, all right? So price came out, it also ripped through these equal highs here. Yeah, so that high there and that high there, key liquidity pool here. Price has ripped, closed above it. You know, look, retested this area for me are now very much for buying. So my ideal situation would be this daily gap. Yeah, so, you know, obviously not to insult you all, but just in case people are looking at this more visually than listening, right? For price to draw back to this area, hold this level. Yeah, you want to see, you know, a little bit of a wick down into this would be perfect, and then the body to recover here. And then I think it's just absolutely moon time, right? We've inverted this gap here. So we need to remember that this bearish gap here was suppressing price here for some time, right? On a daily scale, the bearish gap was set here. We saw 1, 2, 3, 4 rejections at this price again. Then when we close above, this becomes an inversion gap. So just think of it as an area that if we're going to remain bearish, this is where the sellers should be stepping in, right? If they haven't got the power to do it, or the power from the buyers is too much, this goes from an area of resistance to now an area of support. So we're now testing into this, which is really, really key. But I really do like this bullish gap here. I'd love to see price draw down into this, hold this key level, and up, up, and away. Gordon, oi, me old mate, how are we doing? All the way from Bedford. How's tricks up in Bedford, mate? Wet, wild, and windy would be my guess, but God's country up there. Oh, Zane Mo, really good import. Really, really love the thought process on that. Let's take a very quick look at that for sure. You know, I'm probably a little bit more a traditional market trader than a crypto trader in terms of the amount of time that I've spent in the last X amount of years trading markets, but I'm pretty much fully trading just crypto now, because obviously with the bull market conditions, it's only so much resource that you can bring. Yeah, wet and windy, I bet it is, mate. But yeah, you know, FOMC, jobs, which is the jolts, you know, jobs openings and stuff like that. Yeah, are going to be really, really impactful. So we're going to take a very quick look at the news in a minute as well, mate, because that is something that gives me a really, really good edge in these markets. And I don't see a lot of people kind of factoring it in. Now, don't get me wrong, especially in bull market conditions, crypto can very much go and do its own thing, right? But there's stuff we need to be aware of, because ultimately it's a reflection of the state of the US markets, which hugely impacts the rest of the world. But from the perspective we're looking at it from, especially the jobs openings recently, you know, what you want to see is, you want to see the cost of living coming down. You want to see inflation being curbed. You want to see interest rates coming down. You ultimately, I mean, in a dream scenario, you want to see the money printer coming back on, like is what's happening in China. And I think people are sleeping on China right now. All right. They're printing a lot of money. That fiscal stimulus makes a huge difference to markets. Look what happened over COVID. All right. That was the fact. The money printers were on. They were on fire. And, you know, people have that disposable income then that they're then happy to be more risky with. You know, when you're sitting there struggling to pay bills, and believe me, guys, I have been there. You know, I was there for a long period of my life. You know, I built a large business empire worth a considerable amount of money that ended up getting destroyed through COVID and the British government. Before that, I was in very humble industries as well. I actually started off my life when I was younger in the music industry, where you literally learn to live with no money at all. And you're living just to put food on the table every day, right? So I know what it's like when you don't have that disposable income and you look at the markets. I know how I feel. You know, I was talking to the trading team yesterday saying, like, God, I still want more capital to deploy into these markets, but I'm not ever going to take the risks, right? Don't go out and, you know, don't go and remortgage the house for Christ's sake or take out unnecessary loans. This really should be stuff that you're just kind of putting in that you can afford to lose. Look, you'll see people talking about making millions, tens of millions, etc. Look, if you can even make a couple of thousand during this run and that helps you, then that's a massive thing to do. What you can't afford to do is take on debt, lose money, and put yourself in a really, really bad position. That has to be avoided, right? So with this, at the moment, we're setting this kind of nice series of higher lows here, right, on the 4 hours. So where does that leave us? What are we looking for here? Well, first thing I'm looking for is what's capping the market. Yeah, what's kind of stopping price go high. Now, this high here actually pretty much is the key. I tell you as for why. It's not the cleanest. We got a very small close above this here, but, you know, ultimately the issue that we had is we would have needed to see a close above that high because that was the most prominent high. This is the one that's capping the market because failure, retesting this here. But this was the high above it. We'd seen a close above it here before we got these candles. That would have told us the price is then getting ready to move. So we've got a couple of things ahead of us that we want to see price do. But anything with a bit of momentum here and price kind of getting up above this level, I'd be interested in. But, you know, not sure we're going to get it, but it would really be nice to see price kind of come in a little bit lower. Now, if we're looking at this here, we can also see that we've got this kind of rising channel or almost like a rising wedge. We can't get anything more on it there. So looks a lot more like a rising wedge. Now, I'm, you know, not going to be that guy here, but, you know, wedge patterns like this, and if you want to kind of study them further, and people like Axel Kaibar, in my opinion, are the very, very best at it. We can see here, look, rejection. Price is going all the way up into here, rejecting across the lows here. This is super, super clean, this channel. So I'm going to keep this in here for a minute. And we can remain patient. Now, the thing to remember about channels is actually there's a statistically higher probability chance that this thing drops out the bottom than the top. However, not being that guy, it's, you know, it's one of those things that if you see price come down and say engage with a low, so he's sweeping a liquidity pool here, price could easily do this, wick below that, come into a pattern like this, retest it, and then look for the breakout. That's another way to trade these type patterns, right? Because look what happened here, rejection, comes back, steps back inside, retest, lower time frame. That's a brilliant buy up into these highs. You're just trading it like a channel, you know, or a slopey range, as I heard someone call it recently that I thought was brilliant. Jojo, I think US debt ceiling issue has been creating some scare. Yeah, I think it has. I think there's always one of those, unfortunately. It's a little bit of a nightmare with that one. I mean, look, debt issues are running crazy all over the world. And then when you look at currencies and you look at whether the currency of the country is tied to the commodity, like, for example, like the Aussie dollar, because they produce so many minerals and bits and pieces like that, and, you know, so many precious metals, the metals market then typically control what the currency does. So that's one thing. Then it's how they pay their debt. Are they able to pay their debt with their own, you know, with what they produce? Or are they debtors that have to do that, you know, by borrowing? Or are they countries like Switzerland, for example, that are really, really big creditors? So so many different dynamics, but definitely a factor. And you would think as well, with everything that's going on there in the States as, at the moment, that, you know, that debt is going to increase before it decreases. Lewis Cark, hello, mate. Please note your cursor and green boxes are very hard to see. Apologies, mate. They're really nice and clear on mine. Is anybody else struggling to see them? It might be that the feed you're picking up, mate, or maybe some settings on whatever you're watching it on. Have these. Funny enough, I've got one of my old monitors that I click in. If I put this chart on one of my old monitors, this just, you can barely see it anymore. But do let me know, guys, if anybody else is suffering the same. So here we are with ETH, right? I think I'd love to see. What I'd love to see is this wedge fail, yeah, or not fail, but deliver price to the downside, which is highest statistical probability to do, and then give us an opportunity to get some longs from in here. But, you know, we do really need another plan here as well. I'm going to drop this down onto the hourly here because I just really want to see, you know, we need a plan if price really looks hot here. Yeah. It's really typical. Oh, yeah, actually, Lewis, that's a good point there from Nick. It might be, if you're watching this on YouTube or that, you might either need to put the stream quality down a little bit. It might be that it's streaming in 1080 and that it's just not picking up through the internet, but apologies if you can't see it, mate. But yeah, so on the hourly here, we can see we've got a really nice structure going on now. While we hold these lows here, Aussie Grovey, Happy New Year, monkey to you too, my friend. This is looking like a nice kind of deviation of this low here, right? Now, if we deviated the low here, well, we've also swept this swing low. So you're looking here and you're saying, well, actually, this might not be too bad here, right? Maybe any kind of move back to this area, if we can show that we hold this, then we're going to kind of look to pump. Now, this is going to be a very aggressive play here today. I think I want to see what happens when equity markets open. Well, when the S&P 500, the NASDAQ open in the States, we've got just under an hour before that happens, right? And I think that that is going to be there. Yeah, and exactly like on SPX, as Zane is saying here, that, you know, ascending pattern breakout. So again, we're seeing the strength in the equity markets, in the indexes, which should hopefully paint a very good picture for Bitcoin. So yeah, let's take a look in a moment. Colonel 88NL, how are you doing, my friend? Back again from vacation. Very nice, mate. Hopefully somewhere with a little bit of sun. So before we go on a little bit more here, let me run through the news with you quickly, as Zane kind of brought up with us as well, just so we can see what we've got coming up. All right. We also have a news feed over on the Birdnest website as well, which you can use. I'm very old school with these things. I've always used this. I used Forex Factory for God knows how long, and Baby Pips before that as well. But as we look at these, yeah, we're Monday the 6th today. What have we got coming up? Now, this is filtered, so it's just showing us red folder news. All right. So the red folder news is the high impact news, and my focus, unless I'm trading currency markets, is on the US. So tomorrow we have ISM Services PMI and we have JOLT job openings. All right. Now, what you can see over here is what the previous one was, 7.74. They're now expecting more job openings here, 7.77. So if they're expecting more job openings, it means that hopefully then, you know, there's more opportunity for people to get into employment. Employment or unemployment figures come down and therefore show that inflation's a little bit more under control, that the economy is pretty stable and things are looking prosperous for 2025. If they miss the damn thing by a fair amount, then obviously that can have a negative effect on the markets. Services, PMI as well, we can see what happened previous 52, so they're expecting an increase in this as well. The risk when they project an increase is if it misses that figure, then you can see that kind of little bit of instability come into the market. Now, this is interesting for me. On Wednesday, we've got non-farm employment change. So, you know, that's non-agricultural. So that's basically the employment figures minus agriculture. So you're looking at this here with, okay, how many more people are actually getting jobs? Now look at this. Previous was 146 and that was missed. They've now revised that down to 131. So that's already a fairly pessimistic figure. They're putting that in, I think, because they want to see the numbers come in above that and hold the market fairly stable. Seems like a pretty, you know, pretty steep drop considering recent figures. And then unemployment claims. So this is normally pretty close, 211,000 before 210. So again, all of these figures are really saying, other than non-farm employment change here, all of these figures are kind of shaping up to say things are going to be quite good. This is the big one. FOMC, the moment that Powell takes that microphone, everything can change. Now, they're just discussing, you know, the recent FOMC, why they decided to put the 25 basis point cut in, why they're now looking to, you know, because a very hawkish tone came from the Fed. So when they talk in these terms of hawkish and dovish is like bullish, hawkish is bearish pretty much in terms of the tone. And they use that to kind of quell the markets or to stop the risk of things getting too OTT, right? So the market gets too prosperous if they really think the risk bid is on. People go crazy into risk, and then you have that risk that inflation starts to run really high again. Then they have to put interest rates up, and ultimately what you do is you create this yo-yo situation with the markets that becomes very unstable. It's the Fed's job to kind of keep that stability and keep inflation under control, which they've actually done. You know, I think hats off to them. I think they've done very well. However, if he comes out with more hawkish tone here, the markets are going to tank, because he basically said last time that they considered that they might not be able to cut rates as much in the future, or they might be looking to, you know, not have as many cuts, or the cuts might be a little bit shallower than projected. And then we saw that huge correction across equity markets from risk, you know, NASDAQ, S&P 500 losing a lot of pace. And it ultimately then led to, you know, the downside that we saw in crypto. So that is the really, really big one here. And then we close out Here, average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change here, and unemployment rate. Okay, that's going to close out the week. By that point, I'm normally pretty much done with the markets anyway. I'll sometimes trade the Friday morning session here in London. But by the time this news comes out, I'm looking to close out before the weekend anyway, apart from my holding positions. And Lewis, that's great news, mate. Well done, Jojo. Lewis, mate, I struggle with these things all the time, right? So you've done well between the lot of you there. So let's pop this off, shall we? Now we've covered the news, and let's take a look back at the charts, all right? So does anybody have anything they want us to take a look at? I know we've said Ethereum, which we've covered now as well. I'm going to take a look at IOAT as well. I think, hang on, what was that was requested earlier by one of our friends on the stream? Let me have a look. Make sure I haven't missed anything from you guys. But if you've got anything you want me to take a look at, guys, do please put it in there. I thought it was Iota, but... yeah, there we go. Right at the beginning from Crypto Maniac, Iota. So we'll fire that one up in a minute, but let me know, guys, if you've got any others. Get a nice clean chart up for this one, shall we? Let's take a look at the Binance one. So just get rid of all these bits and bobs. Range here, we can see when we're looking at this one before, worked really, really well in terms of the volume profile, getting back in this value area low. But anyway, let's not overcomplicate this. Start with a nice clean chart and see where we are. I mean, that's one hell of a wick to the upside here. Rebalance this gap. I mean, one of the things I'm always looking at, I want to compress the chart up and just see if we've got any key kind of areas. Yeah. So let's see if we've got anything. Yeah, Jojo, absolutely. Funny enough, one of the other viewers asked for that earlier as well. So let's see where we are. Absolutely check FET view as well, mate. Unfortunately, I'm not. But this is BC Richfield here with you today. Slight difference, especially in hairstyles, as we found out in Singapore. But let's just say, yeah, ICP. Very nice from the clown face one. I love that. We've got a bag of that somewhere, actually. I really should check that. Should really have a look. Let's have a look. Where are we? So, one thing I'm looking for is when I see these long downside wicks, right, is that's always going to be a key area for me to see retested. So this is a little bit of a longer version of this, but a guy that I learned a lot from, and a real kind of a really true market legend, you know, runs some very, very big trading teams in traditional markets, right? A guy called Tom Dante, right? Now, Dante taught me an absolute lot, and also, you know, taught a lot of top people in this industry as well, I think. I think even potentially, you know, SZ worked with him for years, and SZ is another person I've learned a lot from, especially since coming into crypto. Now, with these key lows, what am I looking for? Like we were discussing before, on any time frame, is how price engages with those. And don't worry, you flong. Brilliant. I just got that. Superb. Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to cover ICP for you, my friend. So this low here, see how we closed below, but we didn't retest it. Yeah, again, really, really key liquidity pool here, in my opinion. So I'm always keen to see what happens when price comes back and then tests those levels. So, you know, again, it's not exactly like but just go and give this a try, right? What I said, when you see any kind of high or low, right, then what you're saying is, okay, has it been retested? Price closes above it, you look for the retest, and then for price to ultimately move higher. Same as when we got this low here. Yeah, what happened? Price set this low, big close below it. When we look at the retest, price wicks, closes back below here. Then you're looking for price to ultimately sell off. So just looking at that, the other thing I'm looking for on every time frame is there a key pivot point here between support and resistance? And I mean, there kind of is, but it's just a little bit too big here, right? If I was going to be really, really if I was looking at this purely from a perspective of where the key buying and selling has happened, yeah. So this support, lose the area, resistance, strong close, support. Price closes below narrative, but the area is huge and it's on the weekly, so it's just not clean enough. So we're going to look at that on the daily and try and find some cleaner levels. In terms of what's gone on here, we've had this big expansion move higher. We engaged with that level. We were talking about that, still capping the market to the upside. Price then broke down and looked for support lower down. Yeah. So where did it find it? Well, price reacted nicely at this bullish gap here. Do that in the right color. Then we've seen nice reaction here. Now this gives a good platform for price to push up. Ultimately, look how bullish this is. Massive leg higher, setting a higher low now, and then price then looking to move away. So as we take that down onto the daily, we're just looking for the same principles here. And this has given us a really lovely base to build on here, right? Do this one in green as well, so you can see it as what it is, which ultimately is support. And we were looking at it originally as resistance when price came and wicked in and came below. Then when we've closed above this level here, and then you look, you're holding this area, not really anything to stop price reaching up for this next target here, which would be the swing high at 0.4495. I actually really like that level there. I think, while we hold this, prices are, price is looking to expand higher. We've rebalanced this bearish gap on the left now as well. So there's nothing really to stop price in here. You've got a little internal high here. And then obviously this one here, which is a gap high. So that's a really key liquidity level. But this, I think, is the area that we can build a really nice base moving forward. So what do we want to do? Well, first of all, we want to see this level hold. We see the significance even more so here on the 4 hour. Wick above, back below. What happens? Close above here. We get that retest. Price then rips higher. We then tested into this level again. Price has gone higher again. So as we look at this, there's a couple of areas here that I'm interested in. This one, I'm going to do this in red just so it stands out. All right, but I'd like to see this area hold, and then we can look to push up from here. If price is looking for a deeper correction down, obviously we just want to see this level here hold as well. If we're looking at it as kind of an area, then I would say kind of something like this. You want to kind of, I look to kind of get as many of the wicks in to this as I can, with it still remaining clean, but give me an idea of an area where I want to see hold. All right, and why is that? Because look, rejection, strong close. This whole area has offered support. It's very rarely like, a line as such. We have to kind of build a little bit more context into that. Certainly can load VIG. What's the AR? Certainly, mate. So for me, while we hold this level here, I'm looking for longs, or if we come back down to this level, I'm looking for longs. I'm only looking for potential short trades lower if we start closing candles below this. All right, so below this box and then below this line. Until then, I think price is looking to hold here. If we wanted to then, or maybe we don't get this retest, maybe price just takes off from here, then I'm looking at this. That's what's capping the upside at the moment. Strong close above this and retest at this level would also be considerations for buying. It's a little bit more of an aggressive play, but one I'm happy with as long as we can establish the bullish market conditions, which at the moment, weekly still very bullish. A lot of assets still need to reclaim their daily, but they're getting a lot closer. But when you're seeing structure like this, you're seeing these big body candles as well. Let's see price get back above this to move higher. Let's see if we engage here, especially for kind of intraday players. This level is very interesting at 0.3703. But ultimately, as long as we hold this area here should provide good opportunities for long setups as well. Start closing in below this, obviously, then we want to show caution. And potentially even consider some intraday shorts towards lower targets. So that was Iota. Let's take a look at FET, ICP and AR, to close off for the day, shall we? And then we should be on time for a change. So here we go. So this was the FET chart. Again, we can see here thicker red lines normally represent our weekly levels. So what were we looking for here? Quite simply, that was the swing higher. What happened? Price closed, big move above. What do I say to you? I'm always looking for potential long setups on that line. All right, which we got. But ultimately, price broke down afterwards. What happened here? Well, we held this level. Again, it's the swing low. Yeah, flanked by two higher lows. Price tried to get below, closed back above. So we said, right, price is going to move higher here. We had weekly gap on the close of this candle, which we violated. So ultimately expecting price to move higher. The picture becomes a little bit clearer here on the daily as well, right? So as we look at this across here, we see what's happened as prices come into our key levels, see those nice downside wicks showing absorption. We see absorption here. And then this was the area for me that I was looking at, right? This kind of resistance area here. So we came in, we wicked into it here, here, and here. You want to see that strong close above, which we got on Friday. But ultimately, I was looking for some more aggressive positions here in FET to add to some spots. So that's why I took out this swing high. Now, yes, it's internal, but you might say, well, why were you longing into this resistance box? Well, actually, it's the swing highs that I'm looking for price to reject at. This is just always reminding me to show caution here, and that really, if I'm looking to build positions, I want to be doing so above it. But if we look at it now, as we move down on the time frame, we noticed that we had some room to move intraday up to these highs. So for me, I said, well, actually, do you know what? If we take out these lows, which is why we did it in a thicker line here, I think actually this was potentially from the show on Wednesday. We're talking about price coming into this level here, coming down. But anyway, regardless, we got this. We held the key level, higher time frame level holding here as well. Look at the downside wicks. We then got the local sweep we're looking for. And then you intraday play this higher, and ultimately they can turn into swing trades for you as well. As this sits at the moment, it's looking really, really good because it's just kind of building these flags, right? Look, just building these bull flags. So little one here. Yeah, bull flag, price pops up. What else do we get here? So we got one here as well, if we're trying to capture as many wicks as we can. Yeah. So what do we get? Bull flag, breakout, bull flag, breakout. Notice we're not getting retests of these breakouts here on the 4 hour. This thing's just absolutely melting away. So this level here now becomes key for me. I think this level, there's a key level from our weekly chart as well. We can see as a pivot point, it makes a lot of sense as well. But I'm kind of trying to refine that down a little bit. I haven't got a super clear support and resistance line here. It's all a little bit messy around this, but I also don't have, drawing these boxes. You're just looking for these clear and obvious points of containment, either pivot points, so points at which price comes into, and you get a clean exchange between support and resistance, for which the FET chart is very, very difficult here. I think maybe because it's very, very spot driven as well, right? But just trying to kind of look through here to give you an example. This isn't bad, actually, this area here, right? Because if you're taking it from back there and through, you can see, and actually probably take it back even further here, right? But key points of resistance, I'm looking really for the larger moves, these aggressive moves away. So look, key resistance, no respect, support, big move higher, close below, retest, resistance, 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 close above, yeah, retest, support, huge move. So I'm looking for those type of pivot points. I haven't really got one in here. This one here, if I'm not looking for a pivot point, then I'm looking for an obvious area of demand or supply, right? So similar to what we would look at with an order block, for example. So as I'm looking at those, I haven't really got any clear ones there. So this level becomes quite prominent for me. You might be looking for the keen eye amongst you at this level here, as I was just checking this as well. And I was thinking, maybe I haven't made an allowance for this, but I did. Because look, this wasn't untested, which is one thing. So look, close below, retest, big sell-off. Even when we get back to this level, look what happens. Price closes above it here, retests it, and now we're moving higher. So it's interesting. There's some key engagement with that. So I'm going to leave that one on the chart there, actually, in case we get back down to that level. This could be a really good area to see hold. Yeah, I like that here. With this untapped swing high below it as well, this could be an area that when price comes in fact, I'm going to set an alert on here, just so that it notifies me if we get that to come down here. And I'm going to set another alert up here because I want to know when price is coming into this high. Ultimately, we want to see price establish itself above here, big move up, yeah, and then you want to see something like this. Or you want to see price kind of coming down to this level here, a sweep, and then you want to see a pretty quick recovery here, right? And then price holding this level, ultimately using this area as support, and then we can move up from here. So that's my thoughts on FET. I really, really like FET. Like I said, happy to have been adding to the spot bag on this. I think AI coins are going to be a really, really, really hot play. I mean, well, they already have been a hot play, right? But I think they're going to get that resurgence through now as well. Just hit 4,000 live viewers, guys. Awesome to have you all with us. Thank you very much. Appreciate every single one of you. So let's close off by looking at ICP and then AR, shall we? Probably should have a nice clean chart here on Binance with ICP. So here we go. So on the weekly, what are we looking at? Anything key in here as well? What have we got? Few internal highs here, nothing kind of key. I do like to try and focus on, the clear and obvious. And on the weekly scale, it's not really telling me a lot. We see we've got really, really big bullish drive here. We're holding bullish market structure, higher highs, higher lows. Small risk that this becomes a lower high, but we'd still need to take out that low before we're looking at any kind of bearish structure. So I'm not really interested in anything bearish, especially on this time frame. I also really don't have any targets in terms of TA here either. So I'm going to move to the daily. And again, I want to just squish the chart up here and say, okay, can I see any really clear areas? And God, there's one through here, right? So how you identify these are by looking at the wicks, both directions that have led to some of the most aggressive moves, right? And some of these moves aren't huge, but look at this, massive move, massive move, massive move, huge sell-off. So can you, in a way that's not too ridiculous, encapsulate those? Now, I'm not going to be able to get that one. It's just, that one's just too far down, right? But there's other lows in here, right, that we can see align with these. Now, it doesn't have to be exact because you can always adjust it. But if I was looking at something like this swing high here and say, okay, well, how do I get most of those in? Remember, at this point, I'm not really focused on this over here. I'm looking at these and then this. And I'm saying, how can I get those ones in there? And actually, that looks pretty good there. Right, so let's get that out of the view straight away. Why? Wicks coming into this here. Look at the absorption, then look at the absorption to the highs. Deviation, price steps back above, perfect retest, 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 retest. Price then look at the bodies of the candles, boom, 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 underside retest, sell off, and then it becomes resistance. So as price then comes back into this, what does it tell us? Price moves into this, consolidates in here, breaks out. You see this level tested here and price moves higher, acts as support again here and price moves up. Below, resistance, resistance. Now we've got the close above. So I want to be a buyer here. All right, that's why I'm going to have my alert set. What else is this telling me, right? What else? What about the confluence? What about everything else that we just talked about, right? So what about the untapped swing high? Look what that's offering us. I'm going to do it in red just so it stands out, right? But look at that. Key liquidity pool. Price looks to be seeking that out for a bounce here. What other confluence do we have? The big bullish gap here as well. Look at that. It's beautiful, right? So on a daily scale, we've really kind of come into a level here. This is looking gorgeous, actually, ICP, because, you know, any kind of tap into this level at all, and I think this thing can fly. Also, we start seeing weakness in here, especially if we start closing some big body candles into here, then we know that, you know, if we lose this area, our support and resistance area, then we can look for retest of the underside and price to start chasing down some of these lows. So we have a super clear plan here on the daily on ICP. We just get rid of that. How can we look to back that plan up here on the 4 hour? And I'm using the 4 hour here to just try and work out if price is just, if the buyers are just too strong here, because they can be. You know, price might not retest this level. People might just really want to be aping into this because we're already coming down and looking to engage in this area, right? Remember, if we pop ourselves back to the daily, we're already in this daily gap. That could just be enough. We're also inverted this bearish gap. This whole area here is just geared up to offer support. So I just want to complement that with what's going on the 4 hour. So my most aggressive play on the H4 would be to see price close above both these levels. Why? Because that's the level that's capping the market. Wick above, rejection from here. This is the local swing high, and I like the fact that we've taken liquidity below the low. So if this has got enough momentum, if that liquidity sweeps enough to send price up, if this is going to run hot, I want to see it close above here, and then I'm looking to go long. That's my most aggressive play. What I'm really kind of looking for is a bit of a deeper correction in here. Okay, so if we're again looking at this and I'm trying to get this fit, that's not the best there, is it? Probably something more like this. I don't like, when I'm getting the touch points, I don't really like to see the bodies violating. You know, otherwise you can just bloody draw your support and resistance lines wherever you want, right? If I'm trying to get enough in here, then it's probably that, right? Again, not exactly a master of wedges here. I'm just kind of trying to give myself an area to look in. We can see price kind of consolidating within here. Let's just get rid of those for a moment so it's a bit cleaner. So, you know, any breakout of this and a retest of this level, all of a sudden we've got the confluence coming in of saying like, oh, okay, if we draw these back in now, what does this mean? Well, if we get a breakout, yeah, we get a nice strong breakout from price here. What you want to see is either these levels hold or for price to wick down, engage this, and then recover those levels. And that's just telling you that the price is then looking really, really hungry to move higher. So that's where I'm going to be with ICP. But I mean, don't sleep on that daily chart, guys. That daily chart looks so damn good. So let's close up with AR, shall we? Running a couple of minutes over like normal, but more than worth it. I have so many of you, 4,225 of you live with us now as well. Big shout out to every single one of you. Interesting. Okay, so excuse me. I quite like this level here right now. I can't take it quite as high as this wick, but I'm always looking in. Remember those wicks that lead to larger moves. Now that's what's drawn my eye in here. And here, and I don't think this is going to be very clean. If it's not very clean, then we don't have to use it, right? But I would have been looking at something like that, to be honest. I'll tell you as for why. I can't really take it up as high as these wicks. Otherwise, the area is just massive. What this is more like a flip of this. Yeah, see how they just touch perfectly there? That's kind of that level there, because it was never, look, what happened? Price sold off. Yeah, it was never retested as resistance, just got a strong close above it, and then the buyers stepped in aggressively here. Gets very muddy along there though, right? So that for me isn't of any interest for recency. What I can see here is, you know, a clear areas of supply, price coming in, selling off, strong close above, retest support, deviation. Now the big question is, are we back above this level and holding it here? Whack, hello mate, off by now. You know you can always rely on me to jabber on over the time anyway, mate. So hopefully there's still some interest. So we've got our deviation, price above. Now we've got the retest. So this for me is looking interesting here. We haven't taken any key liquidity, but this whole area could just be holding price up. So as I look at it here, it looks a little bit weaker than some of the other assets here, but it has had a pretty nice breakout and reaction here. And what I like about this now is that we can start to see the key levels being held. Price came into this swing low, can't get below it. Looks like it's accepted value at this level. The other thing to consider here as well is we've got this beautiful reaction at this bullish gap. Yeah, so these things all ultimately offering support. So what do we want to see? Well, very, very similar to like we were looking at previously. We've got this swing high here and also this one. Right, so let's make an allowance for both of them and say, well, this is a key area here that price has closed above. You know, we've got that momentum, we've got that explosive action. We've left that bullish gap behind that we were looking for. We've covered this on a couple of previous assets. So for me, again, that's just so clean here, right? High, higher, low, higher, higher, break of market structure on the daily, key level for price to come into. This is where my alerts are going. And this is where I want to be a buyer. All right. Now, again, I'm not just going to dive into that blind. I will obviously overlay specific entry techniques and methods, and I have, you know, entry models that need to meet that criteria. Now, like we seen with the other one, we saw that corrective move lower. We can see that this is actually kind of being held here a little bit. Yeah, so we've actually got like you've got kind of like an expanding wedge here, haven't you? Yeah, or an expanding channel where you've got it, and obviously like a wedge, you see them come into a narrower point. These ones are kind of expanding outwards, showing price kind of pushing its bounds one side to the other. But what we do have is, you know, really clear set of parameters here. We want to see if this holds. If we close below this, then it seems more obvious that price is going to start seeking liquidity below this low and then ultimately below this low. So again, if we see price close below here, you don't have to short this necessarily, although there could be some good intraday plays there. The key is watching price and waiting for it to come down into this key area. And for me, that's where the alerts and the alarms all come in as well. What is going on with the like button, Funky T? I can't see it. So 4,000, well, we got 4,250 people live with us at the moment. So 1 like per 1,000. Awesome, guys. If you can smash the like button, it does do us a really big favor. It helps YouTube pick up the algorithm, which means that we get listed properly, means that we get this across to more people, which ultimately benefits us. Of course it does, because it brings in viewers and hopefully members, and we get to help people pursue their financial freedom. But the flip side of that as well is that obviously, hopefully it helps a lot of you guys getting the insights of us. All right. Yeah, I think the problem with YouTube, right, is that most people are coming in through this are accessing via other mediums, right? Most of them through our good friends Twitter. So click the like button, Joe. So big shout out and thank you to everybody that did. If you do get the opportunity, please do. If not a problem, guys. Still lots of love and respect to go around. Hopefully that's been useful for you. Please do remember, let's pop ourselves back to Bitcoin. You know, the mother of them all. This is going to really kind of lead the market today. So look where we are. Remember our TA from earlier. We're at a key point of resistance here. This is not the place too long. All right. What we really want to do is be looking at price establishing itself above here. Yeah, something like this nice gap, or maybe running this low. Nice strong move above. Let's see it consolidate in here. Wait for those either breakouts, post liquidity sweeps, and then get yourself in a high probability setup and then putting it on there. All right, legends. Been fantastic to have you on there. Far too many of you to thank individually, but you all know who you are. I'll be back again on Wednesday for all of our wonderful TBN members, or if you're interested in membership or anything we do over there, you can find all the information down in the description, as well as all of the links and deals and offers you can get to the exchanges and our partners. But for members, we'll be on our live trading session again tomorrow. We're going to kind of have a little bit more of a focus on swing positions. Again, we've had some real beauties recently, so we're going to focus on that, but we will look at some intraday plays as well. For those of you that aren't aware, members, we live trade together on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week, looking for opportunities. We normally gear it around intraday. We didn't quite get, I think we closed off the year. The yearly target for our trade club, which was our intraday trading club, was 100R, and we got to 78 in the end. So we fell a little bit short of that, guys, but we're going to pick that back up this year and see if we can go a little bit hotter. All right, bull market conditions, everybody be positive, but everybody be safe. Don't forget your risk management. Make sure you're taking into consideration. Don't ever risk more than you can afford to lose. All right, build these positions and wealth over time. All right, and just save yourself from blowing up and being one of these people that gets liquidated. All right, have a fantastic week ahead, legends. A very, very happy Monday to you all. I look forward to seeing you all around the nest.